President. Kristi Noem just announced that you're deploying body cameras to Minneapolis. What's your thinking behind this decision, and do you want to see this?
Well, it wasn't my decision. I would have, I leave it to her. They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. So it's generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if you...
Hold on. Did you catch the look on the reporters' faces when Trump dropped this? We are looking at a total 180 on DHS policy that practically nobody saw coming. This isn't just a minor update. It's a direct challenge to the current power structure in D.C. Let's break down exactly what's happening behind those closed doors.
Governor Kathy Hochul is pushing new legislation that could put New York on the brink of a high-stakes showdown with the Trump administration over immigration enforcement. Hochul's new proposal, called the Local Cops, Local Crimes Act, would ban agreements between New York counties and ICE that allow local resources such as officers or jails to assist with civil immigration enforcement. These are formally known as 287G agreements, and several counties across New York have them, but Hochul is now saying enough. She's calling on state legislators to pass her bill as soon as possible.
Why would we want to divert local law enforcement from the local policing, catching criminals in the streets, stopping gun trafficking, stopping the flow of drugs? I want my local police doing that and not being deputized for civil-only immigration enforcement.
So Hochul insists that state and local officers will still be allowed to collaborate with the feds, but only when there is an active criminal investigation.
Now, this is where the friction really starts to burn. You're seeing Governor Kathy Hochul basically drawing a line in the sand against federal agents. Look at the language being used here. The Local Cops, Local Crimes Act. This is essentially an attempt to block state resources from helping ICE with civil immigration enforcement. It's a massive jurisdictional power play. If you look closely at the news graphics, they're calling it a high-stakes showdown with the administration. This isn't just about New York. This sets a precedent for every sanctuary state in the country. Notice the shift in tone when they mention local police are only allowed to help during active criminal investigations. It sounds reasonable on paper, but in reality, it creates a massive communication gap between federal and local law enforcement. You have to wonder, how do the actual officers on the ground feel about being caught in the middle of this political tug of war? It's a logistical nightmare waiting to happen.
Generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it. Remember one thing, we closed the border. I got elected on a disastrous border, and we have nobody coming in through our border. And also, crime levels are at the lowest point they've been in 125 years. Since 1900, we have the best numbers, and that's despite the fact that we had a lot of criminals and murderers. 11,888 murderers came in, and we have the lowest numbers that we've had in 125 years. So, we're doing a good job. If she wants to do the camera thing, that's okay with me.
Did you hear that specific number? Trump claims crime levels are at their lowest in over a century, specifically since 1900. Regardless of how you view the stats, the strategy here is clear. He's framing the body camera decision as a win for law enforcement transparency while simultaneously doubling down on border security. Watch his hands during the clip. He's completely unfazed by the shocking label the media is putting on this. He's essentially saying, if Kristi Noem wants it, I'm okay with it. It's a very tactical move to appear flexible on transparency while remaining rigid on enforcement. It's also interesting how he pivots back to the 11,000 plus murderers he claims came across the border. He's keeping the focus on the perceived threat even while discussing a tool, body cams, that's usually championed by his critics. It's a classic move, co-opting the opposition's talking points to shield his own agencies from criticism. This is going to make the upcoming funding debates incredibly awkward for Schumer.
Specific reforms that you can demand, or that you are demanding, what are the red lines now as a condition of passing these funding bills?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. You're right. We can't completely do what we want to do without the majorities. But what we can do is insist that ICE and CBP get out of Minnesota and our cities across the country where they are terrorizing people. This can be a much smaller, targeted set of operations. We do not need the militarization on our streets. Number one. Number two, we should demand that there are no warrantless.
And here is the counterpunch. Representative Pramila Jayapal isn't just asking for body cams. She's demanding that ICE and CBP get out of cities like Minneapolis. She uses the word terrorizing. That is incredibly heavy rhetoric. If you look at the split screen, the tension is palpable. This is the red line that could lead to another government shutdown. The Democrats are pushing for a complete demilitarization of the streets, while the Republicans are linking funding to the SAVE Act and stricter voter ID laws. It's a complete deadlock. Jayapal specifically mentions no warrantless arrests, which would fundamentally change how DHS operates on a daily basis. You can see the divide getting wider by the second. On one side, you have the administration expanding body cam programs to show they have nothing to hide. And on the other, you have progressive leadership saying the entire existence of these agencies in metropolitan areas is the problem. We are heading toward a massive collision at the end of this fiscal cycle.
All we want to do is, if you're an American, you need to be an American citizen. You need to show an ID if you go register to vote. If you buy I'm not a drinker, but if you buy a 6-pack of beer in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I grew up, guess what? You got to show an ID. I fly out every week. TSA, I know them all. I know their families. I grew up with some of them, but guess what? I still have to show a dadgum ID. If I cash a check, if I deposit money and then want to pull money out, I have to show an ID. All this is another example of Washington protecting their crooked base. They can't get elected legitimately. 12% of the population is voting right now. Evangelical Christians, 40% of them stay home. 30% of gun owners stay home. And this is what you get. We've got to change the narrative in this country. You all have got to get involved. You got to go to places like Heritage and check people's heritage scores and find out how these people are going to vote and how they voted in the past. And I don't care if you play golf with them, your wife or your sister dated their cousin, you go to Sunday school class with them. If they're not doing right, brother, vote their.
Burchett is taking this to a very relatable level for the average person. He's listing all the things you need an ID for: buying beer, cashing a check, boarding a plane, to highlight what he sees as the absurdity of not requiring it for voting. This is the heart of the GOP's SAVE Act push. Notice how the stock market tickers are running in the background. Even as the financial world hums along, this political divide is threatening to freeze the government. He's talking directly to his base here, framing it as Washington protecting its crooked base. It's high-octane messaging designed to make the opposition look like they are hiding something. This isn't just about the border anymore. It's about the fundamental mechanics of the next election. When you pair this with the DHS body cam announcement, you see the GOP trying to claim the high ground on both security and transparency simultaneously. It's a pincer movement on Schumer's leadership. The landscape is shifting fast. Which side of this do you think blinks first? Drop a comment and let's talk.